Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Says here, Sheikh, question one. I've been on a separation from my husband for a few months now. And in my heart, I don't want to get back with him, but I've had a few people say that I should stay with him. Only for the sake of the children. I shouldn't focus on the state of our marriage, but rather focus on not making my children go through a broken home. What is your view or your advice? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. The general rule is that that's not absolutely correct. That isn't absolutely true. From the aspect of Islam, the Deen, the Sharia, the Sunnah, the Quran, first and foremost, and also from the aspect of mental health and the experts of relationships, all right, different psychologists, people who deal with the psyche of children, etc. That's not absolutely true, okay? If there was no good in getting divorced and having a broken home, if it was totally bad and totally destructive and harmful, then indeed Allah would not have legislated it. Allah would have not allowed it. Okay? And it's based off of the rule, the qa'idah, that the people of knowledge mention, that whenever Allah Azza wa Jal commands us with something, or He allows us to do something or to partake in something, then that thing is either absolute good, or the good clearly outweighs the bad. Whenever Allah Azza wa Jal prohibits us from something, that thing has to be absolutely bad, or the bad clearly outweighs the good. So therefore, if the broken home was absolutely 101% evil and bad and destructive to the children, Allah Azza wa Jal would not have legislated it. And Allah has legislated divorce in the Quran. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He speaks about children, rather He speaks about young children, babies. Talks about breastfeeding and suckling. And Surah Al-Talaq. Okay, raising children. So, let alone the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Let alone the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. In which the concept of custody is mentioned. We just explained some of these rulings and the benefits, the harms, and some of the psychology behind this in the khutbah we gave a few weeks ago. Khutbah we did called the Books of War. We spoke about this. What's important is that if it was absolutely harmful, then it wouldn't be from the religion. So that's incorrect to say it's absolutely harmful. Okay, that's first and foremost. Secondly is, many experts, they say that there are advantages that come from a broken home, quote unquote, or a single parent home, or we're with Abby during the week and with Umi during the weekend, or during the summer we visit Abby in Canada, and during the school year we're with Umi in the United States. Some of them, they mention benefits from this, just like there are harms. Yes, there are harms, no doubt, but there are benefits as well. What's important is that let's ask ourselves a question. How many people grow up and they're, as we say, messed up? All right, everyone has problems, but someone that's really messed up, they had a rough childhood, and it has a big major effect on their adulthood. And their mother was married to their father for 50 years, 60 years. They died together in their sleep in their bed, or he was sleeping in his bed and they were together. How many people with major mental issues come from homes in which the people were never ever separated? And then how many people come from homes, or how many people grow up and they are not quote unquote messed up, or at least not messed up that bad or that badly, or they do good things in life, they're a benefit to themselves, to their communities, etc. And they came from broken homes, whether the father died, the mother was a widow, or he came from an orphanage, okay, or etc. So it's not just based off of the formality. Just because the father lives with the mother doesn't mean it's going to be a good home for the child, especially when you fight every single day, curse, the husband beats the wife up, the wife slaps the husband, throws boiling water on him, okay, picks up a knife, so on and so forth. Abuse, physical abuse. Okay, and when the child cries or says, why do you guys got to fight every day? The child gets slapped. Shut up. Go to your room. So on and so forth. Mind your bleep, bleep, bleep business. That's not good for the child. Or when the child is growing up and they're getting older, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and they see that Abby comes home from work, he says salams to the children, and he picks up the remote control and he watches TV and he falls asleep on the sofa every night. And Umi's up the steps by herself. That's not healthy for the children to see that. It's not healthy for them to see that they don't deal with each other. They sit at the breakfast table. They don't talk to each other. There's no intimacy, no romance. He doesn't give her a kiss or a hug when he gets. That's not healthy for the children either. Okay? And that has an effect on them as well. Or the wife is nitpicking and finds a problem with everything that the husband does. And they fight and they argue and so on and so on and so forth. That's not healthy. And oftentimes, a person who lives with a single parent or in a broken home, quote unquote, some things may be more healthy than others. So at the end of the day, there's always going to be ups and downs, good and bad. The point that we're trying to get to is just because you stay with your husband doesn't mean that that's best for your children. And just because you get separated from your husband, it doesn't mean that that's going to be the worst thing for your children. It depends on how much tawfiq you have from Allah, how much barakah you have from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it depends on how good of a parent you are and what type of substitution you can bring for the lack of your husband being there, the lack of your wife being there, etc. No situation is going to be perfect, all right? So that's what I would say with regards to that. If you can stay with your husband for the sake, first and foremost, of staying with your husband, all right? My general rule, and Allah knows best, my general opinion, is staying with someone that you know isn't good for your deen or your dunya. Or at least one of the two. It isn't good for my deen, but it's good for my dunya. Or it's good for my dunya, or, bad for my, etc., vice versa. Staying with someone that you don't want to be with, you don't care about, you don't have no feelings, no sexual attraction to, or your love has died, as they say. Staying with somebody like that for the sake of the children, is that a good thing? For your deen and your dunya, is that good for you? To be with somebody and you don't want to be with them, is that good for you? And if you're not in a good state, if you're depressed or frustrated, or your sexual desires are not being pleased, or at least in a halal way, how good is that for your children? How will that transpire and go and move forward and overlap to your children? You're going to holler at your kids. You're going to be grumpy. You're going to be irritable. You're going to be on edge all of the time, apprehensive. You're going to take out your anger and your frustration on the children. Use them as a punching bag or a dartboard. So that's something to be mindful of. So if you stay with someone, you try to stay with them for the sake of them, for the sake of yourself, first and foremost. And we all know the famous cliche or the proverb. If we all don't know it, it's definitely an old proverb. They would ask you if a man has the ability to buy his daughter a coat to go to school and study, or buy himself a new pair of work boots. He only has money to buy one of the two. What should he do? Many people, they'll say, of course, buy the daughter the jacket so she can go to school. And the older people, the old heads, they say that's wrong. He's supposed to buy the boots first, because he's the breadwinner. He's the one who works. If he doesn't work, there's no coal. There's no wood. He can't keep the house warm in the winter. So the mother and everyone else will be cold. No food over the fire, let alone her going to school, walking through the village. The husband, the worker, he has to look after his health first. He needs the work boots first. So the mother or the father, you have to make sure that you're right. And if your religion is major, in a major state of it's lacking tremendously, your world or your deen, then what good can you do for your children realistically? What good can you do for your children realistically? As far as this problem and this issue, which everyone is going to have, then that's a different story. Don't get divorced, because everyone has problems. The grass isn't greener on the other side. Everyone has ups and downs. Alhamdulillah, the wife that I have, she has issues, but her good outweighs her bad. The husband that I have, he has some shortcomings, some flaws, but his good is much greater than his harm. He may have this sin, he has a problem with this, he has, but he does pray. He does go to the masjid, he does fear Allah sometimes when he has a flaw. That's one thing. But to you to be in a situation which is totally poisonous or toxic to your system, your religious system or your secular worldly system, and then think that everything's going to be happily ever after for your children, I wouldn't advise with that at all, and Allah knows best. What's important is that the situation is going to be based off of the pros and the cons. It's going to be based off of you making istikhara to Allah, you asking the people's help and the advice, and you have to make the decision what you feel is best. There is no one set rule. It could be better to stay, and it could be better not to stay. All right? Taking a sacrifice for your children, they deserve it without question. Children deserve sacrifice from their parents. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, if you do that sacrifice, hopefully when you get older, you'll see the fruits of it, inshallah. But Allahu Alam, you may not live that long to see that. The children may not survive. You can't always make, it's not always like that. And Allah knows best. There's no one set rule for this. Wallahu Alam. The next question says, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Mufti, may Allah forgive you and reward you, Ameen. With the continuous vaginal bleeding, I've decided to go to the OBGYN and they want to do a sonogram. The sonogram is inserted through the vagina and is larger than a tampon. Since I'm a virgin, I'm not sure if I should, because my hymen will be broken. Jazakallahu khairan. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ameen. May Allah bless you as well. It depends on your options. If you're having continuous vaginal bleeding, and it's a serious problem, and this is the only option that you have for them to figure out what is the problem, or the best option, and the other options are severely inferior to this option of the sonogram, and it's a major issue of your health, okay, and it's causing you harm, then that's one thing. Perhaps. As far as if you have other options that are better or just as equal, then don't do it. Don't break your hymen, okay, if you don't have to, especially if it's going to cause you harm later on. Cultural repercussions, all right, different cultures, a lot of different backgrounds, people that get married, a woman gets married, husband discovers that she doesn't have a hymen or hymen is broken, even though a hymen could be broken without sexual intercourse, but in most cases. So he divorces her, he beats her up, he throws her out, he curses her, her family disgraces her, she's a whore. They married me off to this whore, she slept with men, you told me she was a virgin. There are many, many, many problems that come from her having a broken hymen. So if that's what you feel is going to happen in the future, your cultural background or your own personal whatever, then don't do it unless you have to. Take the other options, be patient, consult other doctors, OBGYN, see what else can be done besides that. Or one may say, and Allah knows best, Allahu Alam, one may say they break the woman's hymen and perhaps she can get surgery for the hymen to be put back together, or Allahu Alam, in which she's like a virgin. Allahu Alam. What's important is you have to think about this, all right? If it's necessity, then that's a different story, okay? If it's a necessity, if it's a medical need, it's a different story. But realize what you're going to do. As I said before, Allahu Alam, the questioner, we know that there are different people from different backgrounds, and it's a major problem. If a man marries a woman, and on the first night, the honeymoon, he wishes to consummate the marriage, and he finds that there is no blood. He finds that she's not a virgin. It's a huge, huge, huge problem in certain cultures. So be mindful of that. If there isn't a necessity, if you have a better option, then do that, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. May Allah help you and make things easy for you. Ameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabina Muhammad.